I don't know if I have told you guys this lately, but I love the heck out of you. I love you guys so much. Yeah, it's been such a great few weeks of Pokemon in general. Like, I'm in a really good headspace. Like, the World Championships were a lot of fun. Yesterday, we opened up Pokemon cards in a live stream, and we pulled the Umbreon. It's been a really good time. I went to a flea market over the weekend. I recorded everything there. That should drop this Saturday. So I've got a new video doing some different stuff. I've got all these ideas circulating in my head, and I just feel like I'm in a really good place, and I don't know, like, I just love you guys, so thank you so much for all the support. You guys have been absolutely amazing. We've talked a lot about, like, content and things like that, and I've talked to you about, like, my challenges, my struggles. Obviously, when it comes to the back end of recording YouTube content, I'm not the greatest, you know? I'm not the greatest at editing. I'm not the greatest at thumbnails. I'm not the greatest of coming up with like catchy titles or anything like that, but it's always going to be real. Like, it's always going to be, I'm going to keep everything completely 100 with you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And it's been so much fun. So thank you so much for everything. Today we're going to talk about the trainer gallery. So we're not going to do a flea market video today. That's going to be in a couple days. We've got Stellar Crown hopefully arriving tomorrow, so I can get all the pre-orders packed up. That should be in either tomorrow or Saturday. And then hopefully I'll get pre-orders shipped out early next week so they arrive to you by release day, which is always like the main goal. And I'm going to try and record footage of like packing orders, things like that, so you get a feel of what it's like behind the scenes of owning an online Pokemon card store, because there's a lot of headaches that go with it. It's small profit margins. It's a lot of fun. Like, I get to interact with you guys. I get to meet like-minded people, and that's kind of what it's all about, like growing the game, growing the hobby. And I know a lot of content creators say that, and it's very cliche, right? But genuinely, like, I don't really care about the money side of things. And if you've ever watched our Wednesday stream, like, you can see that. Like, I have no problem with fail packs because I just want to make sure that you guys get hits, like that you guys get something. Like, this is everything to me. You guys are absolutely amazing. So, but today we're going to talk about the trainer gallery because there was a brief period in time where a lot of trainer gallery cards were like going up like crazy, and FOMO was high and mighty. Like, FOMO was all over the place, where people were like, "Oh, I need to buy this Umbreon or this Umbreon VMAX right now." Not the Umbreon, but the Umbreon VMAX from the trainer gallery before it spikes up even more. We saw a lot of buyouts happening, a lot of manipulation happening, and some weird things happening. Now, the trainer gallery is a very interesting gimmick that Pokemon kind of instilled upon us, starting with Brilliant Stars, right? So through the first several sets of Sword and Shield, there was no trainer gallery. It wasn't until after Fusion Strike released, with the beginning of Brilliant Stars, that you started seeing these trainer gallery cards exist. And they were really important to that era of Pokemon because it started making you feel like pull rates were a lot better. Even though they didn't change pull rates at all, pull rates stayed very close to the same by adding additional chases and adding this trainer gallery, which was a subset within this main set. It made you feel like you were getting more bang for your buck, right? So you had Brilliant Stars, then Astral Radiance, then Lost Origin, then Silver Tempest, which each one had about 30 trainer gallery cards, and you would typically get between 4 and 5 of those trainer gallery cards with every booster box, or every 36 pack sample size. So you would get around 3 of the first half of the trainer gallery. So these were split up into 2 different pull rates. The first half of the trainer gallery, TG1 all the way up to like TG12, TG13, somewhere around there. The first half would be fairly easy to pull, much easier to pull than the back half. The back half of the trainer gallery, you would get a little over 1 per booster box, and that would be your big ones like the Umbreon VMAX, the Starmie V, the Garchomp V, but even like some of the trainer gallery full art supporters like Cook and like Acerola's Premonition, those were in the back half of the trainer gallery. Same thing with those black and cold cards, so a little bit more difficult to pull. And that's worth noting because you would get basically the same amount in your booster box as you would get of the illustration rares that we have right now. So if you want to compare them to something, the trainer gallery, not including the Galarian gallery because that was something specific to Crown Zenith, the trainer gallery, which was in the back half of the Sword and Shield era, is very similar to the illustration rares that you get right now. So with around 30 of them per set, it is pretty much as difficult to get each of those as it is to get any unique illustration rare from sets like Paradox Rift or sets like Paldea Evolved, because those have between 30 and 40 illustration rares. Some of the smaller sets like Obsidian Flames, like Shrouded Fable, like Paldean Fates, like what we will see with Stellar Crown, they have less illustration rares. So as long as the pull rates remain similar when it comes to that illustration rare category, where you're getting about 3 per booster box, those illustration rares should be a little bit easier to pull than any of the back half or any of the trainer gallery cards really in general. And that's worth noting, and that's worth paying attention to because that is going to impact the cost, because that impacts the supply that's available on the open market for people. So then the rest of it, the cost is really just determined by demand. So we're going to look at the trainer gallery because we are getting to a point right now where a lot of these trainer gallery cards that had exploded in price are pretty much back to the norm, back to where they were prior to that market manipulation or that explosion in price really happened. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to go through like 13 or 14 of these, and we'll go through them pretty quickly, but I wanted to kind of establish some precedents when it came to pull rates, because pull rates play a big factor in your Pokemon card chase. Whether you're a collector, whether you're a competitive player, whether you're a storefront, pull rates play a big factor in a lot. And obviously Scarlet and Violet pull rates have changed with the introduction of temporal forces, and they did that because it was basically at a point where an Obsidian Flames released, it was easier to pull a specific unique secret rare than it was to pull a specific unique double rare, and Pokemon really can't have that. So they had to change things up a little bit, and that's why we had different pull rates that began with temporal forces. Of course, that's all opinionated thoughts on my end, but I did have a lot of data and documentation that I've shown you guys to kind of back up those claims. So we're starting off with the Umbreon VMAX, probably the chase card from the trainer gallery set when it comes to Brilliant Stars. You can see this giant increase in price, where at one point in time in April it had jumped up to over $60. So the low point that you saw in March jumped up almost 300%, tripling up to $60.05 in April. Now it's lost pretty much all of that back, and it's sitting at $34.08. So it's still a little bit higher than where it was, still looking at about 64% price growth over the past year, but way off that $60 price point and continuing to trend downward. Now it has leveled off a little bit over the past couple months, but definitely one to keep an eye on moving forward if you are still missing out on this Umbreon VMAX as it comes back down to earth a little bit. The same thing can be said for the Umbreon V. This one at one point in time spiked up to about $49.53. Again, tripling in price, over tripling in price, because in March of 2024 it was sitting at $15.29. So just some really, really historic gains that happened from a lot of these trainer gallery cards for a variety of different reasons. There was a lot more spotlight on it, a lot more content surrounding these trainer gallery cards, and because of that, with a lot of the Sword and Shield product getting bought up, some of these singles that are a little bit more difficult to pull started spiking as well. Now it's lost a lot of it back. It's sitting at $22.89, so still about 43% above where it was in March, but again, way cheaper than where it was in April when it was sitting at $49.53. The Sylveon VMAX has come down a little bit further. $15.22 is where this was sitting in March. Again, a large price gain over the next couple months. It didn't triple in price, but it did over double in price. In April, it jumped up to about $34.50. Now, it's been a little bit more of a slow decline for the Sylveon VMAX because it didn't have as significant of a price hike, but you can see quantities still there, but demand not there as much, and because of that, it dropped down to $22.89, about $7 above where it was in March 2024, which is still, again, about 43% up, but much better than where it was just a couple short months ago. If we look at the Sylveon V, this one also doubled in price, went from $13.50 in March up to about $26.62 in May. Now, again, just like the Sylveon VMAX, it has slowly started to decline more and more, but you're still looking at about 32% price growth over the past 6 months. It's sitting at $18.82, so still about $5 above where it was in March, but you're looking at about an $8 price drop from where it was in May when it saw that giant increase. Here is that Starmie V that we were talking about before, the fan favorite for a lot of people. This is the most expensive of all the trainer gallery cards. This one comes out of the Astral Radiance set. You can see $38.78 in March, April. That's been its low point. That's still higher than what it's been in the past. At one point in time, it did drop below $30 just briefly, but then this one spiked up quite a bit as well. Not quite doubling in price, but it did jump up to about $67.93. This one is still up about 32%, still sitting about $13 above where it was in April, but again, about $16 below where it was at its high point in May, sitting at $51.36 currently. The Garchomp, kind of following the same thing. This one a little bit closer to its 6-month low. You can see in March of 2024, it was sitting at $19.37. This one did over double in price. In April, it jumped up to $46.54. This one also from that Astral Radiance set, it dropped very, very quickly, very significantly. In June of 2024, it was back down below $30. So it lost $16 within the span of about a month and a half. It's still about 37% from where it was in March, sitting at $26.64, but still a far cry from that $46.54 price point that it was sitting at in April. Here's the Galarian Moltres V. This one also from Brilliant Stars or Astro Radiance. I think Astro, I can't remember which one this one's from, but it did jump up almost 3 times the price. This one was a little bit of an odd duck. You can see in May of 2024, it was sitting at $5.70 or about $6, and then started climbing substantially, right? Like it jumped all the way up to $14.28, almost tripled in price, and it lost all of that really quickly. This one was targeted and just not latched onto, and by July, it had dropped all the way back down to about $6 right there, and now it's actually sitting at a 6-month low. It's sitting at $5.74 currently, so it's about 25% lower than where it was in March of 2024. This one's actually sitting at an all-time low right now and continuing to fall, which is very, very interesting. Here's the Zacian V. Zacian V was at $5.34 in March. This one started to get bought up. You can see the quantity of sales in May starting to increase quite a bit, a little bit abnormal on that one, and because of that, it jumped up to about $8.61. Now it's been a slow ride back down, but it's still sitting at $7.24 right now, so well off of its 6-month high, but still about 29% above where it was in March when it was at $5.35. Not a whole lot of money differential between the high point and the low point. You're only looking at about $3.50, but percentage-wise, there was a lot of movement with that Zacian V, and you can see a lot of sales in May, which was kind of out of the norm for that Zacian V. Here's the Pikachu VMAX. This one pretty much all the way back down to normal. This is from Lost Origin. In March of 2024, it was sitting at $29.25. It saw very quick gains in April and May. You can see a little bit abnormal when it came to the quantity of sales there. Jumped up to over 60 sales per day at one point in time, and because of that, it became very close to a $50 card and hit $48.92, and then stayed kind of at that point a little bit longer than some of these other trainer gallery cards that we're looking at. In June of 2024 is when it started its descent, and it's been pretty rapid since then, and because of that, it's lost almost everything that it gained. It's back down to $30.95, so you're only looking at about 6% growth over the past 6 months in total, and it's continuing to trend downward. Same thing with the Pikachu V. This one's doing a little bit better. It's still up about 17.5% from where it was in March of 2024. That's when it was sitting at $20.24, but it saw some very substantial growth very quickly. Again, the quantity of sales really started moving upward quite a bit, and in May of 2024, it jumped up to $32.26, but rapid descent on this one as well. Now, it has gained a little bit of a back. It actually dropped down to about $22 briefly in August. It's gained a couple dollars back, so it's sitting at $24.28 currently. Again, about 17.5% above where it was in March, but definitely trending in the downward direction. Here's Rayquaza VMAX. This is the most popular one from Silver Tempest. In March of 2024, it was sitting at $29.27. Again, almost doubling in price like what we saw from some of these other ones. Jumped up to $52.16, but it lost all of that really quick, and it's almost all the way back down to where it was before it started its rapid ascent. $32.76 is where it's currently sitting, so you're back to only about single-digit growth, sitting at about 9% growth over the past 6 months, trending downward, well off of where it was just a couple short months ago. The Blaziken VMAX, this one also got bought up like crazy. It over doubled in price. Its low point, which was hit in April of 2024, was $8.52. It over doubled in price. It hit $20.90, almost hitting that $21 mark, and lost it all super quick. You can see the anomaly of sales with over 100 of them happening at the end of May, and then it backed off quite a bit and dropped all the way down in June, back down below $15, and continued to trend down since then, sitting at $9.80 currently. So you're only looking at about 11% growth over the past 6 months, but it's still continuing to fall a little bit. Same thing with the Blaziken V. Again, over 100 sales at the end of April there, beginning of May, and because of that, it jumped up in price quite a bit, over doubling in price, about double in price. $7.42 was its 6-month low in March of 2024, and then it jumped up to $14.69 in May of 2024, and then slowly started going down. And then you see a little bit more rapid of a decline there in August, and now it's leveled out a little bit, sitting at $8.57. So again, about 15.5% above where it was 6 months ago, but still well lower, only about half of where it was in June of 2024 when it hit that that 6-month high. And the last one we're going to look at is the Superior V. This one also from Silver Tempest. Again, very abnormal sales amounts there in April of 2024 with over 100 sales, sitting at $5.88 currently, which is actually, or sitting at $5, sitting at $5.88 currently, which is actually lower than where it was in March of 2024 when it was at $8. And it did actually just hit a new 6-month low at $5.40 in August. So we're at a point right now with the Superior V where it's the lowest it's ever been. It jumped up to about $11, $10.96 in May of 2024, and then it's been dropping like crazy and significantly as well. Lost about half of its value and now sitting at $5.88. So it's lost almost 27% over the past 6 months, which is absolutely insane. So a lot of these trainer gallery cards correcting completely. So if you didn't FOMO and you just kind of stayed the course, now might be the time where you want to start paying a little bit more attention to them. Shore up your trainer gallery collections. Again, you're looking at about 120 cards that you're going to need to collect all the trainer gallery cards. Could be a cool collection goal if you so decide to do that route. Obviously not something that you have to do if you're more focused on Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet has a lot of really cool stuff coming out, but a lot of trainer gallery cards have relapsed quite a bit and gone back in the opposite direction, which is really good for the game, good for the hobby, good for collectors, seeing them at a much cheaper price point now that things have corrected themselves a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. Share the channel, do the things. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. We'll be back on Saturday with hopefully the flea market video. So I hope you guys check that out and let me know what you think. Until next time, guys, peace.